Hello Antioch, I'm Alex John Astoria, your candidate for City Council District 4. Alright, today's topic is going to be about the unhoused and what we can do about this. There's basically four different items that I'm going to discuss here, and hopefully this will help. The reason I'm picking this one is because I have a passion about the unhoused, and I know that it's a big problem here in the Bay Area. And I think it's going to get bigger post-pandemic. There's a lot of people who have been laid off and that are having trouble making ends meet. And they're good, hard-working people, but they're unhoused at this point because they can't afford to be anywhere. And we need to, come up with some sort of a safety net for all this. All right. So when one of the articles I was reading about this discusses four major points to work with as far as the unhoused goes. So the first point it makes is housing. Of course, we need to have more housing. I want Antioch to be affordable, and I believe that we can build more housing. We have plenty of backfill lots that are vacant, and I think that we need to consider all the land that the city of Antioch already owns for development. I don't want to see any high rises here. I like the low rises. I think we can work with the backfill lots that we already own in the city to develop housing for people. We need to make affordable housing, maybe some more tiny apartments. I mean, we are a bedroom community for the Bay Area, and we need to just get our heads wrapped around that. It's just the way it's going to be. I like the fact that it's affordable. If I never would have been able to buy a house if I hadn't moved out here to Antioch, and move out here at the time that I did. The housing prices here in the Bay Area are absolutely insane. I think that's all going to change as well when we start reconsidering what this post-pandemic Antioch looks like, but that's a subject for a different time. So back to housing. So we need to develop more housing, and filling in some of the land that we already own is a really good way to start with that. Although giving somebody the key to an apartment is not solving the housing problem or the unhoused problem. It's jobs. These people need to have jobs. They need to have job security. For every 1% of food insecurity people experience, you get a 13% rise in violent crime. Again, that's going to be a topic for the next video. But we really need to have jobs that people can afford to live by. And yeah, having Amazon move in here is great, and it is providing a bunch of jobs. However, when you're talking about $17 to $20 to $25 an hour, that does not buy you a $500,000 house, and that's just the way it is here in Antioch. The median price for a house is somewhere around $500,000. So we've got to come up with more affordable type housing for people, and it needs to be intermixed with all other housing, and you need to have a sense of community with this housing as well. And I talked about that in a previous video where we have these economic development zones throughout the city, and people start feeling a sense of community within a community called Antioch. Okay, so building more housing is the first item that you need to consider. And then services. So healthcare services, which we're doing pretty good with the healthcare services. Antioch's got a good amount of medical and healthcare services going on here that needs to be distributed throughout the community. Here in District 4, we've got a great deal of that going on, and I'd like to see more happen throughout Antioch as well. Employment and education services, absolutely. The job market changes and evolves over time, and we need to have some sort of educational services so that people who are good at doing process X, when process X is no longer required, they can now transfer over and doing process Y. That definitely needs to happen. And then the next one is social connectedness, so that we don't stigmatize mental illness and substance abuse and unhoused and poverty as to be shunned. We need to actually be more accepting and finding of different solutions for these various problems. This is part of being human. So, yeah, it's going to cost us a little bit of money, but I think it's going to be far less expensive than being homeless. That's just taxing on the system really greatly. Okay, and then prevention. We need to be aware of the housing problem and do our best to keep it from happening in the first place. Addressing the housing unhoused market or unhoused individuals as early as possible, so that, like I said, we retrain them into a different field so that they can survive. We pay them a livable wage. We provide them services, or all of us services, so that we don't have to, it's not a privilege to get health care. That's what we do as a society. That's one of the precepts of being an American. We're fair. We're fair to everyone. And we need to really consider that. So just to recap: housing, number one; social services, number two; connectedness, so that they're not shunned and ostracized; and number three, prevention. Recognize what's going on as early as possible before the people are ended up out in the street. So thank you again for listening to my videos, and I hope this helps you understand how we can work with the unhoused and make it a more meaningful and rewarding community. So thank you again, and when you go to vote, if you haven't already, vote for Alex John Astorga, Antioch City Council, District 4.